I wasn't invited to my father's birthday party, not officially. The invitation made its rounds, my brother got one, my cousins did too, even the neighbors who borrowed our snowblower every winter. Later, I saw the photos, long tables strung with fairy lights, paper plates sagging under the weight of barbecue, and a banner stretched across the porch that read "Family Legacy" like it was something earned. Beneath my father's name and my brother's smiling face, there was a small, conspicuous blank space where my name should have been. In its place, a tidy footnote, pursuing other paths, no title, no mention, just an erasure dressed up in politeness. That evening, I stood across the street with my hands stuffed into the pockets of a worn jacket. The spring air buzzed with the kind of laughter meant to exclude. Through the windows, I watched them raise their glasses, to resilience, to success, to the ones who carried the name forward. Someone laughed too loudly, someone else clinked a glass like a bell ringing me out. I caught a glimpse of my mother in her pale blue dress, the one she used to wear on holidays, drifting between guests like a memory I wasn't allowed to keep. I didn't wave, didn't knock, just stood there like a relic they didn't know where to place anymore. For a second, I remembered being 8 years old in that same yard, hoisted onto my father's shoulders to see the fireworks burst over the trees. That boy would have never believed how easily love could be written out of the story. The porch light flicked on, someone pointed, my brother stepped outside. He didn't shout, didn't argue, just shook his head, slow, heavy, like disappointment had worn him down. "You don't belong here, Daniel," he said, "not anymore." I smiled, small, tight, and turned away. Gravel crunched beneath my boots like bones. They thought I disappeared when I lost my job. They were wrong. 3 years ago, I was their golden boy, the first to graduate college, the one who broke out of the small-town cycle with more than a tool belt and a smile. They threw me a barbecue when I landed that tech job in the city. My father grilled steaks and bragged to anyone who'd listen, "That's my son, he's going places," and I believed it, too. I worked punishing hours, skipped holidays, drove through the night just to catch Sunday breakfast before driving back. I sent postcards from airports and rooftops, little reminders that I still cared, still belonged. I thought effort could anchor love. But the distance didn't open like a chasm, it rusted in, quietly, invisibly. Missed calls here, a forgotten group text there, my name slipping lower in the thread until it vanished completely. Invitations stopped coming, excuses piled up. Too busy, too far, too much going on. When the company folded and I was laid off with half my team, there wasn't a soul left I felt I could call, and when I finally did, the replies were sterile, corporate. "Sorry to hear that. Hope you land on your feet. Maybe it's a sign to come back home, settle down." What used to be warmth had calcified into obligation. 6 months before the party, I found a shoebox buried in my closet. Inside, ticket stubs, Polaroids, and a letter from Mr. Miller, the CEO of one of our biggest client accounts. After a chaotic rollout, he'd sent a handwritten thank you. "You have a rare steadiness," he wrote. "Don't let this world make you smaller." I read it 3 times. His words pulsed in my hand like a second heartbeat. I used to believe that loyalty earned you a place, that hard work, love, showing up, those things secured your seat at the table. But some things, I was learning, were never really yours to begin with. The night after the party, I couldn't sleep. The images played on repeat, the porch lights, my brother's face as he told me to leave, my father turning away without a word. At 2 a.m., I scrolled social media, not to connect but to escape. That's when I saw it, a photo my cousin Lisa had posted, a group shot beneath the glowing lights, my father, my mother, my brother, cousins, neighbors, arms slung around each other, grinning wide. The caption, "Family stronger than ever." Beneath it, a comment, "Where's Daniel these days?" Lisa's reply came too fast. "Oh, you didn't hear? He got fired last year. Some shady business at his old job. Kind of embarrassed the family, best not to bring it up." I stared at the screen, blinking, waiting for the words to soften or change, but they stayed sharp, precise. Shady business, embarrassed the family. It wasn't a misunderstanding, it wasn't distance, or awkwardness, or the slow drift life sometimes brings. It was a choice, a deliberate redaction, a clean cut made to preserve the image they needed the world to see. I sat back, the pale light of my laptop flickering across chipped furniture and bare walls, the weight of every sacrifice pressing in, the missed holidays, the overnight drives, the unanswered calls when I needed someone, anyone, to answer. Outside, The night wind tapped gently against the drafty window, a sound as lonely as it was familiar. I thought of the letter from Mr. Miller, still tucked in the battered shoebox under my bed. A man who had known me for a fraction of my life had seen more worth in me than people who shared my name. The anger that stirred wasn't loud, it didn't burn, it chilled, sharp, quiet, decisive. They hadn't forgotten me by accident, they had erased me on purpose, edited me out of their narrative like a blemish on an otherwise glossy page. Fine, if they wanted a story to tell, I'd give them one, but it wouldn't be theirs. The truth surfaced a few days later in the form of a call from Mrs. Langford, our elderly neighbor, the one who used to sneak me extra cookies when no one was looking. She danced around it at first, talking about the weather, saying she missed my face at the party, but then her voice cracked. They didn't want any complications, dear, she said gently, you know, with your father's award coming up. Award. I sat up straighter, pulse quickening. She kept talking, unaware her words were cutting deeper with every syllable. The city council was honoring my father at the Civic Legacy Gala, a Lifetime Achievement Award, a public celebration of a man who had supposedly raised a family of high achievers, pillars of the community, a picture-perfect legacy. And me? Unemployed, uncomfortable, inconvenient. A threat to the photo op. I thanked her and hung up, staring through the cracked kitchen window as the sun bled rust across the horizon. I finally understood. It wasn't about love. It never had been. It was about image, curated, manicured, filtered until the truth no longer mattered. They'd traded connection for control, loyalty for legacy. Let them keep it. I wasn't going to beg for scraps at their table anymore. I was going to build something of my own. It didn't take long. About a week later, while scrolling through dead-end job listings, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but some small ember of instinct made me answer. Daniel Smith? A gravelly voice said, "This is Richard Miller." I froze. Mr. Miller, former CEO of Horizon Systems, the man who had once sent a handwritten letter, back when people still took the time to see the quiet ones who kept things standing. "I heard what happened with your old company," he said. "A damn shame. Good people getting tossed because a spreadsheet said so." I said nothing. He filled the space. "I'm building something new. East Point Industries. Small, sharp, clean, no politics, no dead weight. I need someone steady, someone who knows how to navigate chaos without making it worse." He paused. Then came the words I hadn't realized I'd needed to hear. "I remembered you." He went on. "You didn't grandstand. You didn't panic. You did the work when everyone else looked away. That sticks." He chuckled softly. "I'll send the offer. Quiet for now. We're launching next month and I want to make a splash. But if you're in, you're in." After the call, I sat still at my kitchen table, sunlight slanting across the counter like a quiet benediction. No applause, no family toast, just me, and the calm, solid certainty of a door opening. I didn't need to crash their story. I didn't need to reclaim a seat they'd already decided was never mine. I would wait, I would build. And when the moment came, I wouldn't ask for permission. I would arrive. The Civic Legacy Gala was held at the Old Town Convention Center, the kind of venue that always smelled faintly of dust and coffee no matter how new the carpeting. Banners hung from the rafters, sepia-toned photos of my father arranged like museum pieces, a life's worth of milestones displayed in tidy frames. A lifetime of service, the main banner read, scripted in self-importance. I slipped in early, dressed in a dark suit no one recognized. I wasn't on the guest list, but no one questions a man with a clipboard who walks like he belongs. I watched from the back as the show unfolded. My brother was the first to speak, glowing with pride. My mother dabbed theatrically at her eyes with a folded tissue. My father sat, regal and still, like a man already carved into stone. They didn't mention me, not in the speeches, not in the slideshow of family memories that danced across the screen. It was surgical, impressive, almost, a complete redaction. Around me, the audience clapped, smiled, murmured approval. I didn't move. The truth doesn't need volume, it only needs timing. That moment came when the room hushed and the MC stepped up to the mic, grinning like a man about to deliver a punchline he thought would bring down the house. "And now," he said, voice booming through the room, "we have a very special guest we'd like to recognize tonight." A ripple of curiosity stirred the crowd. "Please join me in welcoming the newly appointed CEO of East Point Industries, Daniel Smith." Silence. Sharp, absolute, frozen, half-raised glasses, wide blinking eyes, then heads turned as one, searching for the source of the name just spoken. I stepped forward from the shadows, no fanfare, no rush, just quiet steps on aging carpet, the soft brush of my shoes filling the empty beat where their applause had forgotten to land. The spotlight hit me full on, hot and heavy. My father shifted in his seat, confusion flickering across his face like static. My brother's smile fractured at the edges. My mother clutched her napkin a little too tightly, the fabric twisting between her fingers. I adjusted the microphone slowly, deliberately. The room held its breath. "Good evening," I said, my voice steady, slicing through the stunned silence with ease. "It's an honor to stand here tonight, surrounded by so many familiar faces." A cough broke the stillness, chairs creaked, but no one dared fill the void that hung thick between my words. I didn't look at my family. I didn't need to. Their silence carved a line straight through the center of the room, louder than any shout. I spoke briefly, calmly, about East Point's mission, about building something real, something new, something that valued integrity not just as a buzzword, but as a guiding principle. There was no venom in my words, no pointed accusations, just the truth, humming softly beneath the surface of each one. When I finished, the applause came, late, hesitant, a mix of confusion and politeness, with a few genuine claps thrown in out of habit. It didn't matter. I hadn't come for their approval. I came so they would see that the sun they tried to erase hadn't just survived, it had risen, stronger and brighter than they ever dared imagine. I left the stage without a backward glance. The moment wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was enough. I didn't stay for the rest of the speeches. Instead, after stepping off the stage, I moved through the crowd, offering polite nods, brief smiles, exchanging handshakes with strangers whose names I'd forget the moment I walked away. Word traveled faster than footsteps. Whispers curled through the room like smoke. "Daniel, really? I thought he was gone." At the buffet table, beneath a chandelier flickering with years of memories, a small crowd had gathered. Someone, a man I vaguely recognized from church picnics, stepped forward. "Congratulations," he said, his voice too loud, too eager, as though trying to fill the silence around me. "Guess things worked out for you after all." I let his words settle between us, but didn't answer immediately. "They always do," I said, letting a smile flicker across my face, a smile that didn't quite meet my eyes. Another voice broke in, a woman, one of my mother's old bridge partners. "Your family must be so proud," she murmured, glancing at my parents' stiff formality from across the room. I turned slowly, letting my gaze drift across the hall, across the people who had once celebrated me, then erased every trace of my existence when I no longer fit their image. "My family," I said, my voice even, "taught me something important." Chairs creaked, glasses froze midair. They taught me that belonging isn't given, it's built, brick by brick, act by act. Loyalty isn't something you inherit, it's something you prove every day in the small ways that matter when no one's watching. The silence that followed was thick, heavy, expectant. They didn't need me to name names, they already knew. I thanked the man, the woman, anyone close enough to hear, and offered them a polite nod before moving on. I didn't need to say anything else. The truth had been spoken, clean and direct. Sometimes, the most powerful messages don't need to be loud, they're the ones that leave no room for doubt. I stepped out into the night, the cool air biting gently at my skin, the stars sharp and cold against the endless stretch of sky. For the first time in as long as I could remember, my chest felt light, unburdened. Behind me, the gala hummed on, distant now, muffled like an old, fading memory. Laughter drifted out in disjointed bursts. Applause sputtered uncertainly, then faded. The door swung shut with a sigh as I crossed the threshold, stepping out into something wider, quieter, freer. In the parking lot, rows of polished cars gleamed under the streetlights, perfect rows of ambition. I walked past them without hurry, my reflection gliding across their glossy surfaces, a ghost they couldn't erase. I paused at the edge of the lot, just for a moment. From here, I could still see the building, its lights flickering like it was trying to hold on to its perfect narrative. I let my gaze soften, let it fade into the distance. I didn't hate them, that was the final surprise. I didn't even pity them, I simply let go. I had spent too many years trying to fit into spaces that shrank me, trying to earn pride from people who only valued mirrors that flattered them. Now, I had my own space, my own sky, my own story. I reached into my pocket, feeling the old crease of Mr. Miller's letter, the one I'd carried with me tonight like a quiet promise. "You have a rare steadiness," it read. I smiled, tucked the letter deeper into my jacket, and turned toward the open road. No fireworks, no grand farewells, just the end of one chapter, and the beginning of another.